Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome to the Wednesday night Grumpy Sound Guy show. So we've kind of been on this business-esque kind of conversation. Last week we were talking about, business stuff and, how to be successful in this business and that sort of thing. I want to take that one step further and spend the next 15 or 20 minutes just kind of talking to you about the importance of attitude, the importance of perspective, in the business. But before we get into all that, please like and subscribe to this channel. Hit that notification bell so you can get a notification every time I post a video, and so that you can continue to support this kind of free content. It costs absolutely nothing to hit that subscribe button. I don't know why people hesitate to do it. My marketing people tell me that 80% of you guys watching this video are not subscribed to this channel. That kind of blows my mind, especially when it's free content. And the kind of stuff that I share is the kind of stuff that people pay tens of thousands of dollars to learn in universities and in colleges and in trade schools all across North America. So I'm giving it to you for free with almost 35 years worth of experience to back it up and a successful track record to validate it. So please hit that subscribe button. So let's dive right in. Winners are people who succeed in this business, see obstacles as opportunities, as challenges. Like, I'm someone who enjoys a challenge. Even when it's uncomfortable, I might grumble and complain a little bit along the way, because I think that's just human nature when you're uncomfortable. But I'm always big picture focused. I'm always someone who's trying to see things as they really are, not necessarily just as they feel. Because the problem with a lot of guys that I see in the music business is their decision-making processes are really more dictated by how they feel about something than by rational type thinking. On the other side of my life, I'm a recovery counselor and a volunteer as that. It's sort of a hobby of mine. I have worked inside of recovery programs for the last 11 years. And in that program, we always talk about two states of mind: your emotional mind and your rational mind. And in your emotional mind, you tend to make decisions you regret. In your rational mind, then you're making decisions based on factual evidence and things that are laying right in front of you and things that make rational sense. So it's the same thing inside the business world, and this can cross-pollinate into any kind of business that you may be into, because your attitude and your perspective on how you do business is really half the battle, man. It really, really is. I can't stress that enough. So for me, when I hear, my haters, talk, when I hear some of my competitors that claim to be my friends, and I hear some negative things they've said about me and my company, it amazes me, and I'll give you this kind of as a sidebar for free. It amazes me how some of my competitors have always positioned themselves as my friend, but then the second I started to get successful and started to make real money, I guess that made me a threat to them in their mind. It's not how I view it in my mind. I don't actively pursue any of my competitors' clients. I know guys that do that. That's not how I roll. If your client calls me, that's kind of one thing. I have to do my due diligence to, at least bid the job. But I'm never going to enter that situation, trying to cut your throat financially. I'm going to bid the job in a manner to where I can show a measurable profit. Wherever that lands is just the way business works. It's never personal from that perspective. It's just business. So that always kind of hurts my heart a little bit, because I genuinely, love a lot of the guys that are my competitors. There are some that that are very much not, people that I trust, or people that I have seen do dirty stuff, so you got to kind of keep all that in perspective. I definitely believe in keeping your enemies close, so I kind of weave my way in and out of all that stuff without trying to get wrapped into or drug into someone else's drama. Because the thing that will kill your reputation quicker than anything is to be a guy who just constantly complains about the adversity that you're hit with, and then blame your lack of success either on your competition or the adversity that's staring you in the face and stuff like that. Look, sometimes things happen and there isn't anything we can do about it, and it's out of our control. COVID is a great example of that. COVID presented a lot of challenges, and a lot of us really lost our rear end. I know I lost, easily 70 grand in 2020, and probably half of that again in 21, and took to the end of 21 before things really started to even begin to look like normal again. And then, 22 and 3 was gangbusters. But I had to not let my emotions dictate my business decisions, because I wanted to be like a handful of my friends or competitors and just sell everything and move to Florida, or just pack everything up and move to Florida or South Carolina or wherever the closest, warmest climate state is to you, and just try to set up shop there, especially if those states had more lenient policies concerning COVID and stuff like that. Florida was definitely one of those. We lost at least 2 or 3 guys that I know off the top of my head in the Mid-Atlantic during COVID. Just some guys just packed up, got out of the business altogether, and took like a house gig at a beach bar somewhere in Florida. Some guys packed all their gear, sold their house, everything, and moved to Florida or South Carolina, that kind of stuff. Georgia, that sort of thing. And I get it, but I've worked over 3 decades to get the reputation that I have now in the Mid-Atlantic, and at 51 years old, it doesn't make rational sense for me to go and restart my business in another state. Now, if I was 30 couple years old, yeah, I may have done that, because I'm young enough to kind of get that going. And when I was 30 couple years old, 32 or 3, I really didn't have that great of a strong reputation hold on the business like I do now. So it would just not make any kind of rational sense for me to pack up and leave. So it's kind of like playing the stock market. Like, if you talk to anybody who's in the stock market, they'll tell you don't move your money around because of emotion, because there was a crash, or because of maybe a company you're invested in closed down, or they just had a big layoff, or they're going through a season of financial struggle. You got to be in this for the long haul, man. And having the correct perspective of that is genuinely, 3/4 of the battle. I can remember when I was a kid. I really loved playing basketball, and I remember a basketball coach telling me one time that being a really good basketball player is like 80% understanding fundamentals and the dynamics of the game, and then another 20% was talent. I was like, man, really? Talent definitely plays a factor in all this stuff we do in the music business. But understanding the dynamics of how to market yourself and how to make smart business decisions, how to manage your money is a super big one. How to ride out the slow times. Like, wintertime is always a slow time for us. We get about 7 months in the Mid-Atlantic of decent weather. Sometimes we can stretch out to 8 months of decent weather where we can go out and make money. A solid 6 months of warm weather. We kind of dance around the showers. The rain always seems to be inconvenient, but that's pretty good. It's pretty good. I know guys in the Midwest, like especially in the Chicago area, or guys up in New England, where they're lucky to pound out 4 or 5 months of good weather to be able to do gigs. And then whatever outdoor stuff they're doing, because let's face it, that's where most of the money is. Whatever outdoor stuff is going on after that are just winter-related things. And man, you're just out in the cold and working in miserable conditions. So you got to keep everything in perspective. Being successful in this business is, knowing how to treat clients. And man, look, I'm gonna be 1,000% honest with you guys, man. There are times where I struggle to have patience with clients that have unrealistic expectations or are asking me to do things that don't align with safety protocol because they don't understand my industry and they really don't understand how I do what I do. I struggle with that. I really do. That's probably the weakest point in all of my business practices, is to have the patience to say, I understand where you're coming from, but what you're asking is either out of the scope of what we're contracted to do here, or it's just not safe, and here's why it's not safe. And I have an insurance agent to be accountable to, the same way I'm sure you do with the insurance that you've taken out in this event and that sort of thing. So I am always super, super cautious that way. And I protect that stuff like a Wolverine, man. You know, I just really, really do, because I don't want anyone getting hurt on my dime. And I am all about what's on the contract. You know, I'm one of those guys. I think you guys that are kind of lackadaisy about that stuff, I don't think you're doing yourself any favors, man. I know you're trying to be easy to work with. I know you're trying to be, give the client everything they want and yes them to death. I used to be one of those guys that yesed my clients to death, but then it got to the point where I found myself in the loser category more often than not, trying to just give them every little whim and thing that they want. No, the contract is in place for a reason, so all the cards are on the table. You know, here are all the things I'm going to bring to the table and that I'm going to provide for your event. And we're going to do it with a smile on our face, and we're going to give you the most bang for our buck. We always exceed what we have on our contracts. But here are some guidelines and some things that we can't do. Here are some things that we have to abide by, and I have to have authority over certain things at your event because my equipment could potentially hurt someone if put in the wrong scenario. So I have to protect that with everything in me. So I'm really genuinely all about what's on the contract. If you want to add to that and amend to that other services on site, hey, we can negotiate that face to face and have a handshake and adjust the money, correctly. And if we can provide those services, we will always try to do that. But the client in this business, the client is not always right. This isn't a restaurant, where you kind of have to surrender to that idea that the customer's always right. That's not the case in the music business, because in the music business, a client that doesn't understand the safety protocol of your industry could put you and your staff in a really rough spot. They really can. And at the end of the day, if something goes wrong and something, goes south, you're the guy that's going to have to stand in court. Your insurance agent is the guy that's going to have to stand in court and give an account for why you allowed these people to dictate safety protocol when it's clearly stated in your contract that you're the guy that does that. So you can execute all those things with the right attitude. You really can. It can be frustrating. It can get spirited, sometimes. That's all fine and good. I have had some festivals where I've went and did my due diligence and tried to give the client everything I can give them and still walked away and they weren't happy and probably not going to call me again. I'm okay with that, because for every client that I lose that wants to compromise what's on the contract, not paying me a priority, not making, my safety protocol a priority, those kind of things, there's going to be 3 other clients come to the table that are going to be willing to follow all that. I don't trust people like that, because all that does is communicate to me that you're somebody I can't trust. That if you can make a buck someplace else or save a buck with somebody else, you're going to have no loyalty to me. So why should I have any loyalty to you? Again, the contract is what clarifies all those things. And the way a client executes that contract and puts their commitment on the table communicates to me Number one, either how serious they are, what kind of professional they are, and what kind of event they're going to run. Because I don't want to go work events that are crazy unorganized and it's just chaos all day long. There's already 1,000 things on my plate that can go wrong that's completely out of my control, that I have to deal with and have to look into my little production crystal ball and try to figure out, what the next problem is going to be. And head that off as quickly and as efficiently as I can, so from the audience perspective everything just runs smooth. It's what I do and I'm really good at it. But you guys gotta come to the table, man, and make what we're doing with your event as important as the rest of the things you're doing with the event. But you know what? I have learned this in this business. You can't make everybody happy. And some people are con men. Some people are just shyster type people, like greasy used car salesman type mentalities, where they don't give two rips about you and they just want what they want and they want to use you and throw you to the side. What are you going to do with that situation? How's that going to affect your attitude? I used to be somebody who would just get upset and rant and rave about all that. And it's just like, it's just not even worth exhausting that type of energy toward that sort of client. They're either going to poop or get off a pot. A winner and someone who is successful will be able to navigate through the clients that matter and the clients that just want to play games. And I send all those game playing clients right to my competitors. I'll give them their phone number. Like, here, call them. Let them come do your event. Maybe they'll wait until the week before the event to get a deposit to secure the date, and maybe they'll wait until 2 weeks after the event to get the rest of their money. That's not how COP Audio rolls, And if you got a problem with that, here's my competitor's phone number. Call them. Because the profit margin in this business is so narrow as it is, I have to take advantage of every time the door of opportunity opens up. And if you're standing between me and the door of opportunity, you're going to lose that battle every single time, because I'm going to turn and push you out of the way and walk through that door every single time. It's what winners do. It's what successful people do. People who lose in this business are the people who want to jump through all those kind of hoops. They're the people who will make 1,000 excuses of why they're not successful. They'll blame everything and everybody around them, their staff, everything else, on why they're not successful. Winners will always adapt and overcome to the client that the climate that they're submitted to, that they're exposed to. And I think that's super important stuff. I hope some of that made sense to you. I hope you hear my heart in all this. You don't have to be a jerk, you don't have to be, a hard ass, but at the same time, you have to stand firm on your contract. You have to stand firm on the things that both parties agreed to. That's why it's a contract. I got in an argument last fall with a guy that who works in an industry where they do contracts every day. And I'm like, he thought I was being rude with him. I'm not being rude with you. I'm trying to hold up what we agreed to on paper. You of all people should understand that. It's not about being rude. It's just business, man. You hired me to do X, Y, and Z. I'm ready and prepared to do that. But payment has to take place in the manner that the contract lays out. And if you can't do that, I'm not your guy. I don't know what else to do to make that any easier. It's in black and white right in front of you when I send you the contract. Take the time to actually read the contract and you'll see what I'm talking about. I'm going to show up with bells and whistles on and ready to do your gig, man, and ready to make it the best we can possibly make it, hoping to, cultivate a long-term relationship with you and do all your events for the next 10 years. But the protocol that we have in place in securing the date and in getting paid prior to the event and the execution of the event has got to fall in line with the contract. So, your attitude toward all that is super huge. It's not about just being Mr. Nice Guy all the time, because that is important, but it's also knowing when to be firm and when to be soft, you know? And it's a balancing act, man. It really is. It's a balancing act. I'll admit sometimes I miss it, you know? Most of the time I get it right, and that's what counts, because most of the time is where the success is found. We all make mistakes, and we all, stumble. We all struggle with stress and everything else. But at the end of the day, are you allowing the stresses and the anxiety of the business to rob you of your happiness and why you're even doing this? Because that's as important as anything. You can go get a job someplace else, probably making as much money or more with way less stress. We're in this business because this is what we love to do, and we're passionate about it. But if you're not getting paid, then why are you even doing it? Because love and passion only go so far. And love and passion don't pay the gear payments, don't pay the vehicle payments, don't pay the business insurance bills, don't pay the gear maintenance bills, don't pay the fleet vehicle maintenance bills. I mean, I could go on and on and on. Love and passion doesn't do anything when you're sitting there looking at a stack of bills. It's always got to come down to getting paid correctly, and let's follow what's on the contract. I love you guys. Please like and subscribe to this. I'll see you next week. See ya!